The space station called Meridian Point floated in the darkness between three great empires. It was old, built long before humans ever left their blue planet, and it had seen many things. Wars had started in its corridors. Peace treaties had been signed in its meeting rooms. Fortunes had been made and lost in its trading halls. But in all its long history, it had never seen anything quite like what was about to happen in a small restaurant on level 47. Lucy Martinez wiped down the counter of the Wayward Star for the third time that hour. It was a nervous habit, one she had picked up from her mother, who always said that clean hands and clean surfaces meant a clean mind. The restaurant was quiet now, caught in that strange time between the lunch rush and the dinner crowd, when only the most dedicated drinkers and the most lost souls wandered through its doors. She was 28 years old, with dark hair that she kept pulled back in a practical ponytail, and brown eyes that her father always said could see right through a person. She had been working at the Wayward Star for 3 years now, ever since she had followed her then-boyfriend to the station, and then promptly broken up with him when she discovered he had been lying about almost everything. The job had been meant to be temporary, just something to pay the bills until she figured out her next move. But somehow, 3 years had passed, and Lucy had discovered that she actually liked the work. There was something satisfying about feeding people, about taking their orders, bringing them food, and watching the tension leave their shoulders as they ate. The Wayward Star attracted all kinds, from human traders to alien diplomats to mercenaries of species Lucy could not even name. She had learned to read body language across a dozen different physiologies, to know when someone wanted to talk and when they wanted to be left alone, to sense trouble before it started and diffuse it with a well-timed joke or a free drink. Her boss, a heavy-set man named George Cooper, often said that Lucy was the best waitress he had ever employed. She knew he was probably exaggerating, but she appreciated the sentiment anyway. Today, however, was different. Today, George had called a staff meeting before opening and told them all that they would be hosting a very special group of guests, a delegation from the Empire. Lucy had heard of them, of course. Everyone had heard of them. They were one of the elder races, species that had been traveling between the stars when humans were still figuring out how to make fire. They were warriors, famous throughout the galaxy for their strength, their ferocity, and their complete lack of fear. They stood 8 feet tall on average, covered in scales that ranged from deep crimson to midnight black. They had claws that could tear through metal, teeth that could crush bone, and eyes that seemed to look right through you to judge the worth of your soul. Most species gave them a wide berth. Crossing them meant death, quick if you were lucky, slow if you were not. They had conquered dozens of worlds in their long history, and though they had been relatively peaceful for the past few centuries, no one had forgotten what they were capable of. And now a group of them was coming to her restaurant. George had been almost giddy with excitement when he told them. The delegation had specifically requested the Wayward Star as the site for preliminary diplomatic discussions with humanity. Something about it being neutral ground, owned by humans, but located on a station that belonged to no one. The publicity alone would be incredible, George said. The money they would make from curious customers wanting to eat where history was made would set them up for years. Lucy was less enthusiastic. She had nothing against the personally, having never met one, but the idea of serving a group of 8-foot-tall warrior lizards made her nervous in ways she could not quite explain. There was something about them that tugged at the back of her mind, some half-remembered story or image that she could not quite bring into focus. She shook off the feeling and went back to wiping the counter. Whatever was bothering her, she would deal with it when the time came. That was another thing her mother had taught her. Worry about what was in front of you, not what might be coming around the corner. The door chimed, announcing a new arrival, and Lucy looked up automatically. Her breath caught in her throat. They were here. The first through the door had to duck to avoid hitting his head on the frame. He was enormous, even bigger than Lucy had imagined, with scales the color of dried blood and eyes like molten gold. He wore formal robes in black and red, and he moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something his size. Behind him came 6 more, each one as large and intimidating as the first, their scales ranging from crimson to deep maroon. Lucy noticed that the other customers in the restaurant had gone very quiet. A couple near the window was trying to look like they were not starring. A group of traders at the bar had frozen with their drinks halfway to their mouths. Even George, who had been practically bouncing with anticipation all day, seemed to have lost his voice. Someone had to do something. Someone had to break the tension before it became something worse. Lucy put down her cleaning cloth, straightened her apron, and walked toward the delegation with a smile on her face. The lead watched her approach with an expression she could not read. His golden eyes tracked her every movement, and she had the uncomfortable feeling that he was assessing her the way a predator might assess prey. But she kept her smile in place and her stride confident. Her mother had always said that fear was like blood in the water. Show it, and the sharks would come. She stopped a respectful distance from the group and inclined her head in greeting. She had looked up customs the night before, wanting to be prepared, and she knew that a full bow would be seen as submissive, while no acknowledgement at all would be seen as disrespectful. A slight inclination of the head was the appropriate greeting from a service worker to honored guests. "Welcome to the Wayward Star," she said, keeping her voice warm but professional. "I am Lucy Martinez, and I will be taking care of you this evening. You must be the delegation. We have your private room prepared, but can I get you anything while you wait for the ambassador?" The lead studied her for a long moment. Up close, she could see the intricate patterns of scars that crossed his scales, each one a testament to battles survived. She could see the way his nostrils flared slightly as he took in her scent, the way his claws flexed almost imperceptibly at his sides. He was reading her just as she was reading him, and she wondered what he saw. "You do not tremble, little creature," said a female from behind him. Her voice was like grinding rocks, and her scales were darker than the others, almost black in the low light. "Do you not know who we are?" Lucy turned her smile toward the female without missing a beat. "You are the Crimson Scale Clan, Dragon Clan warriors of the Empire. Your commander is renowned for his victory at the siege of where he held the gates against 10,000 enemies for 3 days without rest. And you are whose name means Stormbringer in your ancient tongue, who earned her place in the clan by defeating 7 challengers in a single day." She paused, letting that sink in. "We do our research." The silence that followed was different from before. It was not the tense silence of fear, but the surprised silence of people who had been caught off guard. Lucy saw several of the warriors exchange glances, and even the one called seemed to reassess her with new interest. "You speak of our history as if you have studied it," he said. His voice was deep, resonant like thunder in the distance. "I have. When I heard you were coming, I wanted to understand who I would be serving. It seemed only polite." "Polite" made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I do not think anyone has ever called learning our battle records polite before." "Well, I'm not sure what else you would call it. You are guests in our establishment. The least I can do is know something about you beyond the stories told to frighten children." Lucy gestured toward the back of the restaurant. "Now, if you would follow me, I will show you to your private room. The chef has prepared several options that should be compatible with your dietary requirements. We have fresh beast, properly aged as I understand your people prefer, along with some Terran alternatives if you are feeling adventurous." She turned and began walking, not looking back to see if they were following. It was a calculated risk. Respected confidence, according to her research, and showing her back to them was a sign of trust. Either they would follow or they would take offense, and if they took offense, well, she would deal with that when it happened. After a moment, she heard the heavy footsteps behind her and allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. The private room had been prepared with care. The furniture had been replaced with pieces rated for weight. The lighting had been adjusted to levels comfortable for their sensitive eyes, and the temperature had been raised by several degrees to match their preferred climate. Lucy had overseen most of the preparations herself, and she was pleased to see that everything was in order. She showed them to their seats, distributed menus, and began the process of taking drink orders. The warriors were still watching her with that unsettling intensity, but she could feel the tension in the room slowly easing. They were beginning to see her as a person rather than just another soft alien to be dismissed. "This is unexpected," said as she poured water into glasses designed for hands. "I was told that humans were timid creatures, easily frightened. Some of us are, just as some are, I imagine, though I suspect they do not last long in your society." "No, they do not," leaned back in his chair, which creaked alarmingly under his weight despite its reinforced construction. "You are different from what I expected, Lucy Martinez." "I will take that as a compliment." "It was meant as one." Lucy finished pouring and stepped back. "I will give you a few minutes to look at the menu. If you have any questions about the dishes, please do not hesitate to ask. Some of them may be unfamiliar to you." She was about to leave when spoke again. "Wait." Lucy paused, turning back. "Yes. You said you studied our history. What else do you know of the Crimson Scale clan?" It was a test, Lucy realized. Wanted to see if her earlier display of knowledge had been genuine or just a few memorized facts designed to impress. Well, Lucy had never been one to back down from a test. The Crimson Scale clan is one of the oldest warrior houses in the Empire, founded over 10,000 years ago by a warrior named the First, who united 7 warring tribes under a single banner. Your clan marking is the coiled serpent wreathed in flames, representing both wisdom and destruction. You are one of only 3 clans permitted to perform the ancient rite of blood challenge, and your warriors have served as the personal guard of the Emperor for the past 600 years. She paused, seeing the surprise on their faces, and decided to push a little further. Your clan has 347 members currently, down from a peak of over 1,000 during the Great Expansion. You have won more battle honors than any other clan in your history, but you have also suffered more losses. 42 of your warriors were killed in the conflict alone, including several who were listed as missing rather than confirmed dead. She met eyes directly. "Shall I continue?" His mouth had fallen open slightly, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Even looked taken aback, his golden eyes wide with something that might have been shock. "How do you know all of this?" he demanded. "This information is not public. The details of our clan membership are losses. These are internal matters." "I am a very good researcher, and I had a very good teacher." Lucy smiled, but there was something complicated in her expression now, something she did not fully understand herself. "My mother always said that knowledge was the greatest weapon, that if you understood your enemy, you could defeat them, and if you understood your friend, you could help them." "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She is also the one who taught me not to fear things just because they are bigger than me." Lucy gestured at the menus. "I will be back in a few minutes. Please take your time." She left the room, closing the door quietly behind her. Once she was in the corridor out of sight, she leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. What was that? Where had all of that come from? Some of the information she had shared was from her research, yes. She had spent hours the night before reading everything she could find about the Crimson Scale clan. But other details, the specific numbers, the losses at, the warriors listed as missing, she did not remember reading any of that. It had just come to her, as natural as breathing, as if she had always known it. And that moment when she had been talking about her mother, something had shifted in her chest, some feeling she could not name. Her mother had never talked about weapons or enemies or knowledge as power. Her mother made tamales and watched soccer and complained about the price of groceries. Her mother was the most ordinary woman Lucy had ever known. Was she not? Lucy shook her head, pushing the strange thoughts aside. She had a job to do. Whatever was going on with her memory, whatever weird tricks her brain was playing, It could wait until after the delegation was fed and happy. She returned to the main floor, where George was waiting for her with an expression of barely contained excitement. "How did it go? What are they like? Did they say anything about the restaurant?" "It went fine, they are. Intense, but not unfriendly." Lucy moved past him toward the kitchen. "I need to check on their food, make sure everything is prepared properly." "Lucy, wait." George caught her arm, his grip gentle but insistent. "Are you okay? You look pale." "I am fine. Just nervous, I guess. It is not every day you serve a group of legendary warriors." George did not look convinced, but he let her go. "Okay, but if you need a break, just say the word. I can have Danny cover for you." "Thanks, George, but I am fine, really." She was not fine. She was very far from fine. But she did not know how to explain what she was feeling, did not have words for the strange sense of recognition that had washed over her when she looked into his eyes. So she just smiled and went about her work, and tried to ignore the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she could not imagine. The kitchen was a controlled chaos of activity. The head chef, a wiry man named Benjamin Park, was barking orders at his staff as they prepared the dishes. The beast was roasting on a spit designed for the purpose, its meat turning a perfect golden brown. Side dishes were being plated with military precision. Everything was coming together exactly as it should. Lucy checked each dish personally, comparing them against the descriptions she had found in her research. The meat was aged correctly, the vegetables were prepared in the traditional style, and the spices were the right blend for Crimson Scale preferences. She nodded in satisfaction and headed back to the private room. When she opened the door, she found the warriors in the middle of a heated discussion. They fell silent immediately, their eyes snapping to her with that predatory focus she was beginning to recognize as their default state. "I apologize for the interruption," she said. "I just wanted to let you know that your food will be ready in about 15 minutes. Is there anything else I can get you in the meantime?" Waved a clawed hand dismissively. "We are fine, thank you." Lucy nodded and was about to leave when she noticed something that made her stop. Sleeve had ridden up slightly, revealing a portion of his left arm. There, on the scaled skin, was a pattern she had not seen before. A marking of some kind, elaborate and intricate, running from his wrist toward his elbow. It was a serpent coiled around something that looked like a broken chain, all of it wreathed in stylized flames. Lucy felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She knew that pattern. She had seen it before, countless times, traced in faded ink on human skin rather than seared into alien scales. She had seen it on her mother's arm, hidden under long sleeves and deflecting questions, present for as long as Lucy could remember but never explained. "That marking," she heard herself say, her voice coming from very far away, "on your arm." Looked down, then back at her. "Our clan scarification, the mark of the crimson scale, only those of our bloodline may bear it." "The serpent and the broken chain," Lucy whispered, "wreathed in flames." "You know it," leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "How do you know what our full marking looks like? The outer design is known to outsiders, but the broken chain." "My mother bears a tattoo just like yours." The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Lucy could not believe she had said them, could not believe they were true, but she knew they were. The pattern on her mother's arm, the one she had glimpsed in childhood and wondered about ever since, it was identical to what she was seeing on scales. Not similar, not inspired by, identical. Every warrior in the room had gone absolutely still. They were staring at her with expressions that ranged from disbelief to shock to something that might have been fear. Even the great commander who had held the gates of looked shaken. "That is impossible," said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Our marking is sacred. It is burned into our hides through ritual fire. The ceremony takes 3 days and leaves scars that last a lifetime. No outsider has ever received it. No outsider has ever even seen the complete design. And yet my mother has it." Lucy's legs felt weak, but she forced herself to remain standing, running from her left shoulder down to her wrist. A serpent made of flames, coiling around a broken chain. I have seen it 100 times, though she always tried to hide it. She said it was a reminder of a life she left behind. "Describe your mother," commanded, rising from his seat. He was so large that he had to hunch to avoid hitting the ceiling, and his presence filled the room like a storm. "Describe her to me now." Lucy swallowed hard but did not look away. "She is small, shorter than me even, dark hair though it has gone gray now, brown eyes. She has scars on her back that she says are from an accident, but they look like claw marks, and she has nightmares. She calls out in her sleep in a language that does not exist on Earth." "What language?" "I do not know, something harsh and guttural, something that makes the air vibrate when she speaks it." Lucy's voice dropped to a whisper. "Something that sounds like your language, Commander." Closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were glistening with an emotion Lucy could not identify. He said, the name barely audible, "She is describing." The other warriors erupted into noise, all of them speaking at once in their own language. Lucy caught fragments of meaning, enough to know that they were arguing, questioning, denying. The name came up again and again, spoken with something that sounded almost like reverence. Silenced them with a sharp gesture. "Is dead. She died at the battle of 32 years ago. We performed her death rites. We sang her spirit to the eternal hunt." "We never recovered her body," said quietly. "Her escape pod was caught in the explosion. The debris field was too dangerous to search. We assumed she was destroyed, but we never found proof." He looked at Lucy with an intensity that made her want to step back. "How old are you, human?" 28. "And your mother, when did she come to Earth?" Lucy thought back to the stories she had heard, the fragments of history her mother had shared over the years. "About 31 years ago. She showed up in Mexico City with nothing but the clothes on her back and a wound in her side that should have killed her. My grandmother found her in an alley and nursed her back to health." 4 years after, breathed. "The timing matches. If her pod was not destroyed but damaged, if she drifted for years before crashing." Stop held up a hand. "We are speculating, we need evidence." "I have evidence." Lucy pulled out her personal device with trembling hands. "I have a picture of my mother, if you want to see." The room went silent again. Nodded slowly, and Lucy activated the holographic display. The image showed a woman in her early 60s, standing in a garden surrounded by flowers. She was small, as Lucy had said, with silver-streaked dark hair and the kind of weathered beauty that spoke of a life fully lived. She was smiling at the camera, but there was something in her eyes that did not quite match the expression. Something distant, something sad. And there, visible on her left arm where her sleeve had ridden up, was the unmistakable pattern of the Crimson Scale clan. "By the ancient fires," whispered, "it is her, it is truly her." Reached out toward the hologram, his clawed hand passing through the image of the woman's face. He said, and this time his voice broke on the name, She survived. She has been alive all this time and we never knew." Lucy watched the massive warrior struggle with emotions he had probably not felt in decades, and she felt her own eyes begin to sting. "You knew her. You knew my mother." "Knew her?" Let out a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "She was to be my mate. We were to be bonded on the day after the battle when we returned victorious. But the battle went wrong and she was lost, and I—" He could not finish. Moved to his side, placing a hand on his arm in a gesture of support that seemed almost tender from such a fierce creature. "Was the finest warrior of her generation," said quietly. "She rose through the ranks on skill alone, defeating all challengers, proving herself worthy of the Crimson Scale through blood and fire. When she disappeared, when we thought she died, it broke something in our clan. She was beloved by all of us." "She was like a mother to me," said another warrior, younger than the others, his scales a lighter shade of red. She trained me when I was just a hatchling, taught me everything I know. When we lost her, I swore I would never take another teacher. One by one, the warriors spoke, each sharing a memory of the woman they had known as a warrior who had saved them in battle, a friend who had listened to their troubles, a mentor who had shaped them into who they were. And through it all, Lucy listened, and she tried to match these stories with the mother she had grown up with. It was impossible. Her mother was not a warrior. Her mother was a homemaker, a grandmother, an ordinary woman who lived an ordinary life. She made tamales for family gatherings and yelled at the television during soccer matches and complained about the price of avocados. She was not the legendary fighter these aliens were describing. But the tattoo, the scars, the nightmares. The way her mother sometimes stared at the stars like she was looking for something, or someone. Why did she never come back? Lucy asked, her voice cracking. If she survived, if she was alive all this time, why did she not try to contact you? Why did she stay on Earth? Turned to look at her and she saw the same question reflected in his golden eyes. I do not know, but I intend to find out. He straightened to his full height, his grief transforming into determination. Where is she now? Where is your mother? On Earth, in a city called San in the country called the United States. Lucy hesitated. She lives there with my father, with her family. Her family, repeated the words like they were foreign to him. She has a family. Yes, me and my father, my grandmother before she passed, and my children her. Lucy watched his face carefully. She built a whole life, Commander, a life without warriors or battles or clans. She became someone new. The warriors exchanged glances, and Lucy could see them struggling with this information. Their lost hero, their beloved, had not spent the last 3 decades trying to find her way back to them. She had moved on. She had made a new family. She had become human. I need to see her, said finally. I need to understand why she stayed away. The ambassador reminded him, the diplomatic mission. Can wait, his voice was firm. For 32 years I believed the woman I loved was dead. For 32 years I have lived with that grief, that absence. If there is even a chance that she is alive, I must see for myself. The ambassador will understand. And if she does not want to see you, Lucy asked quietly. She has kept this secret for 3 decades. She has never told anyone about her past, not even me. If she wanted to be found, would she not have done something by now? The question hung in the air, uncomfortable and unavoidable. His expression shifted, some of the determination fading into uncertainty. You speak truth, he admitted. She chose to hide. She chose to stay away. Perhaps she has reasons I cannot understand. He looked at Lucy with a new intensity. But you are here. You are her daughter. You carry her blood, and unless I am mistaken, you carry her spirit as well. The way you stood before us without fear, the way you spoke to us as equals, that is the warrior I remember. Lucy shook her head. I am not a warrior, I am just a waitress. There is no such thing as just anything. Everyone has a role to play, a purpose to serve. And sometimes the universe places people exactly where they need to be to change everything. Moved closer, and despite his size, despite his fangs and claws and fearsome appearance, Lucy found that she was not afraid. You found us, Lucy Martinez. Out of all the restaurants on this station, out of all the servers who could have been assigned to us, it was you who walked through that door. You who recognized our marking. You who had the courage to speak. That was just coincidence. There is no coincidence. There is only the eternal pattern weaving its threads through time and space. Reached out and gently touched her shoulder with one massive claw. You are part of that pattern now, whether you want to be or not. The question is, what will you do about it? Lucy thought about her mother, sitting in her garden in San, tending her flowers and pretending that her past did not exist. She thought about the scars and the nightmares, the tears that came when her mother thought no one was watching. She thought about all the questions she had never been allowed to ask, all the mysteries that had surrounded her childhood. Maybe it was time for some answers. I will call her, she said. I will tell her you are here and I will let her decide what she wants to do, but I will not force her. If she wants to stay hidden, that is her choice." "Fair," agreed. "More than fair, thank you, Lucy Martinez." "Do not thank me yet. You have not tasted our beast. The chef has been working on it all day, and he will be devastated if you do not at least try it." The tension in the room broke, just slightly, as several of the warriors made sounds that might have been surprised laughter. Evan's grim expression softened into something that looked almost like a smile. "Very well," he said. "We will eat. And while we eat, you will tell us more about this mother of yours, this Martinez who was once of the Crimson Scale." Lucy nodded and went to get their food. As she walked through the corridor, her mind was spinning with everything she had learned. Her mother was an alien warrior. Her mother had fought in battles among the stars. Her mother had been loved by the most fearsome creatures in the galaxy, and she had given all of that up to raise a daughter on a small blue planet at the edge of nowhere. Why, what had made her stay? What had made her hide? Lucy did not know, but she was determined to find out. The food arrived and the warriors ate, and for a few hours at least, the universe seemed to pause its endless spinning to let them all catch their breath. But Lucy knew that this was only the beginning. Whatever happened next, whatever revelations awaited them, nothing would ever be the same. Her mother had a secret, and Lucy was going to uncover it, no matter what it took. The meal lasted longer than anyone expected. The warriors, fierce and feared throughout the galaxy, turned out to be surprisingly good dinner companions once the initial tension had faded. They told stories of battles fought and victories won, of distant worlds and ancient traditions. Lucy listened, fascinated, and tried to imagine her mother living this life, fighting these battles, being part of this fierce, proud people. It did not compute. Her mother was not fierce. Her mother was gentle and kind and quick to laugh. Her mother cried at sad movies and worried about whether Lucy was eating enough. Her mother was ordinary. But maybe that was the point. Maybe her mother had worked very hard to become ordinary. Maybe ordinary was what she had needed after a lifetime of being extraordinary. "Tell me about," Lucy said during a lull in the conversation. "What was she like, before she came to Earth?" The warriors exchanged glances, and Lucy saw memories flicker across their faces. It was who spoke first. "She was fire," said simply. "She burned brighter than any of us. When she walked into a room, everyone stopped to watch her. When she spoke, everyone listened. She had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the universe, even when she was surrounded by hundreds." "She was kind," added the younger warrior whose name Lucy had learned was. "When I was young, I was weak, smaller than the other hatchlings, slower to develop. The others mocked me, called me names, said I would never be a true warrior. Found me crying behind the training grounds one day. She did not tell me to be strong or to fight back. She just sat with me and listened. And then she said something I have never forgotten." "What did she say?" "She said that strength comes in many forms, that the strongest warrior is not always the one who wins the fight, but the one who knows which fights are worth fighting. She said that my size did not matter, my speed did not matter because I had something more important. I had heart." Lucy felt tears prick at her eyes. That sounded like her mother. That sounded exactly like her mother. "She trained me after that," continued. "Personally, every day for years. She taught me to use my size as an advantage, to be quick and clever instead of strong and brutal. When I finally defeated my first challenger, she was there watching. She did not cheer or congratulate me. She just nodded once and I knew I had made her proud." More stories followed. Saving a wounded comrade during a retreat, standing up to a superior officer who was abusing his power, laughing in the face of death during a battle that should have killed her. The picture that emerged was of a woman who was brave and compassionate and utterly devoted to her people. And then she had left them all behind. "I do not understand," Lucy said finally. If she loved her clan so much, if she was so devoted to her people, why would she stay on Earth? Why would she hide? Set down his drink and was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I have been thinking about that myself, and I believe I may know the answer, though it brings me no comfort. He looked at Lucy with those ancient golden eyes. When did you say you were born? 28 years ago. And when did your mother arrive on Earth? About 31 years ago. So approximately 3 years passed between her arrival and your birth. Nodded slowly. Time enough for her to recover from her injuries. Time enough to learn about the world she had crashed on. Time enough to realize that she had no way to contact us, no way to return home. Okay, Lucy said. But why would that make her stay? Surely she could have found a way eventually. Humanity made contact with other species only a few years later. She could have reached out then. Perhaps, but by then, what would she have been returning to? His voice was gentle, but his words cut deep. She would have been a warrior who had been defeated and lost, a woman who had spent years living among aliens, and she would have been leaving behind. He trailed off, but Lucy understood. Me, she whispered, she would have been leaving behind me. Not just you, your father presumably, your grandmother who saved her life, an entire family that she had built from nothing, shook his head, was always loyal to a fault. Once she gave her heart to someone, she never took it back. If she had formed bonds on Earth, real bonds, she would not have been able to break them, even to return to us. But she could have brought us with her, could she not? The silence that followed was answer enough. Lucy looked around the table at the massive, scaled warriors, and she understood something that she had not fully grasped before. She was human. Her father was human. They were soft and small and fragile by standards. They were exactly the kind of creatures that had dismissed as timid and easily frightened. Our people would not have accepted you, said, confirming Lucy's fears. A human father, a half-human child, these things would have been seen as shameful, would have been stripped of her rank, possibly expelled from the clan entirely. And you, Lucy, you would have been treated as an abomination. So she chose us, Lucy said. She chose her human family over her one. She chose love over duty. His voice was thick. She chose the family she had made over the family she was born into. I cannot say I blame her, but I wish I had known. I wish I could have told her that it did not matter, that she could have come home regardless. Would that have been true? Would your people really have accepted us? Hesitated, and in that hesitation, Lucy saw the truth. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe that his people were capable of that kind of acceptance, but he was too honest to lie. I do not know, he admitted. I would like to think so, but I cannot promise it. Lucy nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand her mother in a way she never had before. All those years of hiding, of deflecting questions, of pretending to be ordinary, it had not been about shame or regret. It had been about protection. Her mother had been protecting her father, protecting the life they had built together. And she had paid for that protection with her own identity. She had buried so deep that even her own daughter had never known she existed. I need to talk to her, Lucy said. I need to hear her side of this. Agreed, said. Will you contact her now? Lucy looked at the time and shook her head. It is the middle of the night in San. She will be asleep. I will call her in the morning our time. Then we will wait, settled back in his chair. We have waited 32 years. We can wait a few more hours. The ambassador arrived eventually, a human woman named Dawson who was clearly confused by the atmosphere in the private room. They were supposed to be fierce and intimidating, but she found them laughing and telling stories with a human waitress who seemed to have no fear of them whatsoever. Lucy excused herself to let the diplomatic discussion begin, but stopped her at the door. Whatever happens next, he said quietly, I am glad we found you, Lucy Martinez. Whether your mother wishes to see us or not, you have given us something precious today. You have given us hope. I have not done anything yet. You have done more than you know." He pressed something into her hand, a small metallic token with the crimson scale emblem etched into its surface. "This is a clan token. It marks you as a friend of our people, someone under our protection. If you ever need help anywhere in the galaxy, show this to any and they will aid you." Lucy looked down at the token, feeling its weight in her palm. It was warm, almost alive, and she could swear she felt something pulse through it when she touched it. "Thank you," she said, "but I cannot accept this. I have not earned it." "You earned it the moment you stood before us without fear. You earned it when you recognized our marking and had the courage to speak. And you earned it by being the daughter of, whether you know it or not." Smiled, and it was a terrifying expression on his fanged face, but somehow also gentle. "Take it. Consider it a gift from one family to another." Lucy nodded and slipped the token into her pocket. It felt strange there, a reminder that her life was no longer what she had thought it was. She returned to the main floor of the restaurant, but she could not focus on her work. Her mind kept drifting to her mother, to the life she had lived before Earth, to the secrets she had kept for so long. What was Lucy going to say to her? How do you begin a conversation like that? "Hey, Mom, I met some aliens today, and they say you used to be a legendary warrior. Want to explain that?" It sounded ridiculous even in her head, but she knew she had to do it. She had to know the truth. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She served customers and cleared tables and smiled and nodded at all the right moments, but her heart was not in it. George noticed, of course, and sent her home early with instructions to get some rest. Lucy went to her small apartment on level 32, sat down on her bed, and stared at her personal device for a long time. It was morning in Sand now. Her mother would be awake, probably in the garden or the kitchen, living her ordinary life. She had no idea that 3,000 light-years away, her daughter had discovered everything. Lucy took a deep breath and made the call. It took a few seconds to connect, the signal bouncing through relay stations across the galaxy. Then the screen flickered to life, and her mother's face appeared, warm and familiar and so painfully ordinary. "Lucy, sweetheart, what a nice surprise. It is so early there. Is everything okay?" "Hi, Mom." Lucy's voice came out steadier than she expected. "I need to talk to you about something." "Of course, what is it? You look pale. Are you sick?" "No, I am not sick. I just—" Lucy paused, trying to find the right words. "I served some interesting customers at work today." "Oh, tell me about them." "They were warriors from the Empire, from a group called the Crimson Scale Clan." The change in her mother's face was immediate and devastating. The color drained from her cheeks, and her eyes went wide with something that looked like terror. Her hands, which had been folded calmly in her lap, began to tremble. "Mom," Lucy said softly, "I saw their clan marking, the serpent and the broken chain, and I told them about your tattoo." Her mother closed her eyes. When she opened them again, tears were streaming down her face. "Oh," she whispered, "I am so sorry. I am so sorry." And then she began to tell her story. "My name was not always," her mother said, her voice heavy with decades of silence finally breaking. "I was born, third daughter of the brave, on a world called Prime. I was a warrior from the moment I could walk, trained in the ancient ways of our people, blooded in battle before I had seen my 20th cycle." Lucy listened, transfixed, as her mother spoke of a life that seemed to belong to someone else entirely. Battles fought across distant stars, enemies defeated and allies made. The slow climbed through the ranks of the Crimson Scale clan, earning every honor through blood and fire. "I was good," her mother said with a sad smile. "Too good," some said. "I rose faster than any warrior in generations. By the time I was your age, I was a commander, leading my own unit into battle. I had earned the respect of my peers and the fear of my enemies. I had everything I had ever wanted." And her mother's expression softened. He was my heart. We met during a training exercise when I was young. He was already a seasoned warrior, and I was just a newcomer trying to prove myself. He defeated me in combat, and instead of mocking me as others would have done, he helped me up and showed me what I had done wrong. I fell in love with him that day, though I did not admit it for years. He still loves you, Lucy said quietly. I could see it when he talked about you. I know that is what makes this so hard. Her mother wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. We were to be bonded after the battle of everything was planned, but the battle went wrong. We were ambushed, outnumbered. Our ship was hit, and I was thrown into an escape pod moments before the hull collapsed. But your pod was not destroyed. No, it was damaged badly, though. The navigation system failed, and I drifted for months before finally crashing on a planet I had never heard of, a planet they had not yet discovered. Her mother laughed softly, bitterly. Of all the worlds in all the galaxy, I landed on Earth. And you stayed. I did not mean to. At first, I was just trying to survive. I was injured, alone, unable to speak the language. I thought I would die in that alley where I collapsed, but then your grandmother found me. Lucy had heard this part of the story before, but it felt different now. Her grandmother, a cleaning woman who worked nights and barely had enough money to feed herself, had found a dying alien in an alley and had taken her home anyway. Had nursed her back to health, had taught her Spanish and then English, had helped her build a new identity. She never asked where I came from, her mother continued. She never pushed me to explain my scars or my nightmares. She just accepted me. And when I was finally strong enough to think about the future, I realized that I did not want to leave her. I did not want to leave this strange, beautiful world full of creatures who were soft and fragile and utterly fearless in their own way. But your clan, they thought you were dead. I know, her mother's voice cracked. Every day I thought about trying to contact them. Every day I told myself that tomorrow I would find a way. But then tomorrow came, and I would look at the life I was building and I would tell myself one more day. And the days became weeks, and the weeks became months, and then you met Dad. Yes, her mother smiled, and it was the same smile Lucy remembered from her childhood, warm and full of love. Your father walked into the restaurant where I was working, and he looked at me like I was the most wonderful thing he had ever seen. He did not care that I was strange, that I had secrets, that I sometimes woke up screaming in the middle of the night. He just loved me, simply, completely, without conditions. And you loved him. More than I had ever loved anything. Even, her mother shook her head. That was the moment I knew I could never go back, because if I did, I would have to leave Carlos, and I would rather have died than leave him. Lucy processed this, turning it over in her mind. Her mother had given up everything, her people, her love, her identity, for a quiet man who made her feel safe. It was not the heroic ending she might have expected, but somehow it felt true. And then I became pregnant with you, her mother continued. And everything changed again. You were half human, Lucy. You still are. They would have seen you as something wrong, something shameful. I could not do that to you. I could not let them look at my beautiful daughter and see anything less than perfect. So you hid forever. Yes, I buried so deep that even I forgot who she was sometimes. I became ordinary housewife, loving mother, and I told myself it was enough. I told myself I was happy. Her mother's voice dropped. Most days I almost believed it. Lucy sat in silence for a long moment, letting everything sink in. Her mother was not ordinary at all. Her mother was extraordinary, a warrior who had chosen love over glory, a hero who had sacrificed everything to protect her family. And she had been carrying that burden alone for 30 years. Mom, Lucy said finally, is here on the station. He wants to see you. Her mother's face went pale. No, Lucy, no, I cannot. After all this time, how could I face him? How could I explain? You do not have to explain anything. He already understands. He is not angry, Mom. He is just. He has been grieving for 32 years. He thought you were dead. Finding out you are alive, it has changed everything for him. What does he want? I think he just wants to see you, to know that you are okay, to say goodbye properly maybe if that is what you want." Lucy paused. "But that is your choice, Mom. I will not force you to do anything. I just thought you should know." Her mother was quiet for a long time, staring at something beyond the screen, something only she could see. When she spoke again, her voice was steady but rough with emotion. "I have spent 30 years hiding from who I was, hiding from the people who loved me, from the life I left behind, and maybe that was the right choice. Maybe it was the only choice I could have made." She looked directly at Lucy, and there was something fierce in her eyes, something that Lucy had never seen before. "But I am tired of hiding. I am tired of pretending. I am tired of being afraid." "Mom, tell I will see him." Her mother straightened, and for a moment Lucy caught a glimpse of the warrior she had once been. "Tell him that is ready to come home." To be continued.